Your personal value is not determined by external factors. It's determined by your self-belief and your self-worth. Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a free resource for women who work in the sports and entertainment industry. Each week, we get real and talk about the things that hold us back and how we can overcome them and keep climbing to the top. And the top is however you define it. We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Consider this podcast your secret weapon. You will learn from the best in the business and be able to take immediate action with all the advice that you hear. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake, a leadership development coach and consultant. I've worked in sports for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent working for the Red Sox, Dodgers, and the Cubs. After 15 years of working in the front office, I took a leap of faith and I started my own business. Friends, as a Black woman in sports, I know that the industry can take a toll on your confidence and sometimes leave you feeling defeated. Join me each week so I can support you on your journey. I promise you, each week you will feel stronger and more confident than the week before. So let's get started with this week's episode. Let me ask you a question. Do you envision yourself stepping up into a leadership role someday? Or maybe you're already leading the charge. Whether you're already there or aspiring to be, my goal is to help you fly. It is interesting when I think back to my career, I remember wanting to step into a leadership role before I even had my undergraduate degree in hand. I had this natural desire to lead. And though I wasn't sure what that looked like or how it would take form, I still wanted it. I had been leading all my life through sports, college sports, editor-in-chief of my newspaper, although I had no idea what I was doing, but I still wanted the role and got it. I've been leading all my life, and I didn't want to stop. Reflecting on my education, one thing we never touched upon in undergrad, grad school, or any of my internships was the mindset of a leader. Now, perhaps those places weren't where the discussion was to take place. And I know that a lot of learning happens when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the job. But I can't help shake this feeling that we as women back then and still now would have greatly benefited from a heads up about the pitfalls along our path to the top. In a bit, I'm going to talk about some of those traps. But before I get there, I want to say, as women, we grapple with so many unconscious bias that our male peers don't have to deal with. The reality, the harsh reality, is that society has gender stereotypes that it expects us to conform to. Yes, they're still there. These are deep-rooted, and they often go unnoticed, and they create blind spots in both men and women. You know what really gets under my skin is how these stereotypes can make us adopt leadership styles that aren't true to who we are. One thing I know for sure is the pressure to be a leader can be very intense. It could give rise to imposter syndrome and feelings of inadequacy. This fear can warp our approach to work. It can stop you from becoming the leader you've always wanted to be, and it leads you straight into these leadership traps. As women, as we continue to take up space in this industry, I want to guide you around those common pitfalls. I want to help you make sure you avoid the pitfalls that new leaders often stumble upon. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. In this episode, I'm going to talk about 5 different pitfalls that you need to avoid. Let's start with number 1, risk avoidance. We've all been there. The thought of taking risks can downright be scary. But here's the truth. Risk-taking is necessary. We need it in order to grow and be successful. So staying in your comfort zone may seem really safe and cozy, but that also means that your growth is put on pause. Now, think back to a time that you took a risk and it paid off. Remember that surge of confidence that you had? That's something that nobody could take away from you. In fact, avoiding risks can actually slowly chip away at your confidence. So if you find yourself shying away from taking risks, I encourage you to shift your mindset. I want you to start focusing on the benefits, the potential for success, the potential for personal growth. Think about the learning opportunities. Think about the competitive edge taking a risk is going to give you. Now, if you're still feeling jittery and you're like, Jahaan, I'm not doing it. That's just not my thing. I'm risk averse. Here's my secret sauce. Yep, I said secret sauce. Always ensure that your risks are calculated and thoughtful. They shouldn't be reckless leaps, but rather informed, strategic decisions. This approach will help you embrace risk taking in a way that fuels your growth and makes you a stronger leader. Number 2, solo problem solving. Keyword there is solo. Here's the truth. We're not meant to handle everything alone. It's a common tendency for leaders to just want to shoulder all the responsibilities. Here's what I hear from my clients a lot. They say things like, it's just faster if I do it myself. My team has never dealt with this before. They can't help me. Or even, everyone's too busy. I have to take it on my own. When you take on every problem, big or small, on your own, you are limiting your perspective. Now, this in turn narrows the range of solutions that you can explore, that your team can explore. Going solo can also lead to overwhelm, and eventually that leads to burnout. When you exclude your team, you miss out on valuable learning opportunities. Don't underestimate your employees, regardless of their level. Remember, you were once in their shoes, and I guarantee you had a lot of great ideas. One of my favorite moves when I was working for a team was to go in, get a big flip chart. There was no whiteboards where we had this meeting, so we had flip charts. I would just ask them for solutions. I would ask them for ideas. Here's what we need to solve. What do you think we need to do? And all I did was listen, and I would write it down. I was at the front writing it down, listening to their ideas. They did all the talking. I just asked a lot of questions and did a lot of listening. And my team had amazing, amazing ideas. Effective leaders understand the power of delegation and the importance of trusting their team. When you do this, you'll see increased productivity, not just for yourself, but for your team as well. You'll build trust with them. You're going to reduce your own burnout and improve decision-making. So remember, you do not have to go at it alone. You're not meant to. Trust your team, delegate, and open up the floor for more perspective. It's not just about solving problems. It's about growing together. Number 3, excessive agreement. While collaboration is key, it's very important. It's also important as a leader that you voice your own unique perspective and your own unique ideas. And this trap often gets those who tend to be people pleasers. I've been there, recovering perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. It's who I am. I can't help it. But when I made the switch, doors opened up. Everything changes. I understand that it can be draining when you feel like colleagues resent you for disagreeing with them. But let me tell you, their feelings about you are none of your business. They are not your responsibility. Someone told me this when I started working for the Cubs. You are not hired to be everyone's friends. You weren't put in a leadership role to please everybody. It is an impossible task to please everyone. So when you sidestep this trap of excessive agreement, right? When you avoid this trap of excessive agreement, you open the door to healthy debates and, as Hannah Basinger, episode number 1 always says, rich discussions. They are the breeding ground. It's what you want to do. It's a breeding ground for critical thinking. And that's when your best ideas come up. That's when innovation comes to life, is when you're having these rich discussions or healthy debates. When you do that, it also helps avoid groupthink. And now we all know groupthink leads to poor decision-making. Voicing different opinions is key to steering clear of that. When you avoid excessive agreement, you're setting a precedent for your team to do the same. They'll be inspired by your ability to engage in meaningful, thoughtful conversations that lead to great ideas. So they are going to mimic you. They're going to mirror what they see you doing because you are their leader. So remember, while collaboration is important, it is critical to use your voice. It is critical to voice your unique perspective and ideas. That is how you can foster innovation and critical thinking with your team. Number 4, underestimating your personal value. It saddens me to say this. It breaks my heart. But many women often underestimate their worth and capabilities. We got to stop that. That's why we got this podcast. This can prevent you, when you do that, this can prevent you from pursuing opportunities, negotiating effectively, and stepping into your power as a leader. Listen, we've all been there. We've all underestimated our value. But remember, it's okay to feel this way temporarily. Don't let it become your permanent resident. Don't set up shop and live there. You can have that feeling, try to understand why you have that feeling, but move on. You got to find your confidence. You got to whip out that toolbox to help you get out of it. If you need something to help you with your mindset, I have a free workbook that my clients love, that I love. Go to jahaanblake.com/mindset and download it for free. Listen, when you underestimate your personal value, you limit your career growth. You're going to end up settling for lower salaries, and you're going to miss out on opportunities. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That is literally what's going to happen. Plus, doubting your own worth can impact your mental health and leave you feeling unsatisfied with your job. I don't want that for you. And I know you don't want that for you. So it's time to dig into your mindset toolbox. Let's go and figure out what you need to do to shift. Remember, if you underestimate your personal value, others are going to do the same exact thing. They're going to believe what you are telling them. But when you believe in your worth, you'll see an automatic boost in your confidence. You will become a stronger negotiator. You will see more career advancement opportunities, and you will cultivate a higher resilience. Now, if you are multitasking right now, I need you to come back to me for just a moment. I need your full attention. You with me? Your personal value is not determined by external factors. One more time. Your personal value is not determined by external factors. It's determined by your self-belief and your self-worth. So I need you to embrace it and unlock your full potential. Listen, friend, we got this. Number 5, neglecting self-care and setting boundaries. As a leader, it's easy to put work before personal well-being. It's so easy. But remember, your physical and mental health are essential for making sound decisions and maintaining productivity. So when you neglect self-care, we're going to get to neglecting setting boundaries in a minute. When you neglect self-care, you open yourself up to increased stress and anxiety. You also open yourself up to potential physical health problems, strains on your personal relationships. And when you neglect self-care, it can start to lower your self-esteem. I need you to understand this. Self-care isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. One more time. Self-care isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Prioritizing activities that help you relax and recharge is critical to your success. Doing so not only improves your physical, mental, and emotional health, it also helps foster a positive work environment, and it enhances your interpersonal relationships. Now, let's talk about neglecting to set boundaries. Clear boundaries are essential for a healthy work-life balance. Without them, you risk, let's see if you can guess, increased stress, burnout. You can decrease your productivity when you don't have boundaries. And yes, you guessed it, when you don't set boundaries, it leads to neglected self-care. Now, conversely, setting clear boundaries can help maintain a healthy work-life balance or work-life harmony, if you will. Sometimes balance is a hard thing to achieve. So let's call it harmony. It can lead to increased productivity, reduce stress. It's going to help you have stronger connection with your families and friends. And believe it or not, when you set strong boundaries and you hold them, it leads to higher job satisfaction. You just like your job better because you are setting boundaries. You are driving and steering the ship. As leaders, we must prioritize our well-being and set clear boundaries. This isn't just for you. It's just not for ourselves. It's also for the teams who look up to us for guidance. We are responsible for teams. You are a leader now, or you're almost a leader. And don't forget, your team and people in the organization are going to look to you for guidance as a leader. So remember, you can't pour. I know you've heard this before. I hope it's not a cliche. Maybe it is, but I'm going to say it anyway. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So take care of yourself. Set those boundaries and watch as you and your team thrive. You got this. Okay. So I shared 5. I do have a lot more, but I wanted to make it digestible and easy for you to hear these. Maybe I'll do a part 2. I want you to remember, it's perfectly normal to stumble upon these traps. What matters is how you pick yourself up. We're going to fail, but it's how we react to it that matters most. You are not alone in this. We've all been there at some point in our lives. I'm raising my hand. You can't see me. I have been there. Taking actionable steps that we've discussed and applying them in your professional life, you will start to witness this positive change because you, my friend, are a leader. You are capable of inspiring change, sparking innovation, leading with compassion and conviction. Now, what I need you to do is go out there and show them why they hired you. And if you ever find yourself doubting that you can do it, I need you to remember this conversation. I need you to remember this episode. Remember that you have the tools to overcome these pitfalls. When they happen and you can avoid them and you find yourself in them, that's okay. You have the tools to get out of it. You have this episode. You have the Managing Your Mindset worksheet. You have mentors. You have access to me as a coach. There's other coaches out there. Remember that you have the tools. You are stronger than you think, and you have a whole community of women in sports who are rooting for you. All right, my friends, I love sharing the space with you, and I love that you tune in week after week. So thank you for listening. Get out there, shine. You've got this. Until next week, my friends.